Thank you very much, Chicago. Hold on. Set the stage. I'm very excited that we get to bring Peter back out one more time. This is a piece that he wrote specifically for the Chicago Woodstock that we did this year. And it was many people's, including mine, one of the genuine highlights of the show. We're very glad that he has agreed to do it for us again. So once again, please welcome Peter Segal. Hi. This is my first open mic night. I wrote this thing. It's about me. I have this dream. I have it all the time. In my dream, the intruder, wearing his tuxedo, or his wetsuit, or both, drops into the corridor I patrol via those air vents we never do anything about. He smashes Barry's windpipe with the side of his hand, and Barry falls to the ground, gasping for breath, his eyes filled with horror and sadness and resignation. And the intruder, he adjusts his bow tie or his snorkel, and he says, "Cat got your tongue?" And I think of Barry's actual cat, a stray he rescued from under a car named Chevy. And I think of Chevy scratching at the door of Barry's apartment, waiting for him to come home. I raise my machine gun and cock it. It makes a noise, and the intruder turns around. The intruder says, "Now I understand you're angry." And he raises his hands in surrender, but only kind of halfway to indicate his insincerity about the whole thing. And he eyes the hot steam vents that Dr. Apocalypse installed along the corridors at eye level. And he turns his wrist so as to better aim his wristband missile launcher. And he says, "Maybe you need to let off some," and that's when I shoot him. A shot to the chest, and then another to the belly, and he falls down into a spreading puddle of himself, and I walk over and I stand over him and I say, "Cat got your tongue, you cliche spouting son of a bitch!" And I fire, and I fire, and I fire, and I fire, and I wake up all sweaty next to Bev. And she says, "Did you have the dream again?" And I say, "Yeah." She says, "Did you hit him?" And I say, "Yeah, that's how I knew I was dreaming." And she says, "Good for you, honey," and goes back to sleep. It's not like what you've heard. All the dorks talking down at the comic book shop, I hear their jokes, I don't say anything. There are no ads in the paper or Craigslist saying, "Wanted, stern, ruthless men willing to do anything, no questions asked." No, no, no. The doctor tried it that way, but you get loose cannons, egotists, guys who think they should be in charge. No, if you're good at this kind of work, if you're good for this kind of work, they find you. But they don't tell you what it is, not right away. They say, "We're looking for men who can rise to a challenge, but only when we tell them to." Eventually, you figure out what it is. The first time you pull hostage guarding duty or going to feed the man-eating sharks, and you look at what's in the bucket. But by that time, you're okay with it. You've gotten used to the benefits and the hours and, you know, the uniform. And besides, you don't want to make waves. They knew that you'd feel that way. That's the biggest reason they hired you. You don't get to meet Dr. Apocalypse until you've screwed up. I think they set it up that way. They tell you, say, you know, you really need to bolt down the energy projector really well. The doctor won't like it. And they shake their heads and they draw the finger across your throat. So you bolt down that energy beam projector so well, you turn that wrench until your hands bleed. And then when the intruders come, they just saw a big hole around it in the floor, and it falls down into the cellar where they've got their submarine. And you can hear them laughing, and you fire your machine gun down into the hole, and they keep laughing. So they take you to see the doctor. And he's just like you imagine he would be. He's got the white lab coat and the goggles he never takes off. And he says, he rails at you in his raspy voice about your incompetence and your errors, and you think to yourself, gosh, is this the same guy who sends those nice personal notes with your employee evaluation? Who writes those charming personal stories about his early days as a street criminal for the Secret Base newsletter? Yeah, it is the same guy. This is just a different side of him, and he yells at you about how stupid you are, and then he pulls the lever, and you fall into the piranha tank. It doesn't hurt. Not really. There's a shock when you hit the water, even if you're expecting it. And the piranhas nibble a bit. But eventually they open up the tank and they pull you out and they hand you a towel and a fresh jumpsuit. And they tell you to avoid Dr. Apocalypse for a while, but if he does see you, answer to another name. I sometimes wonder if the doctor knows that his number one is fooling him. I mean, really, you can't be feeding your employees to meat-eating fish. It would be murder in morale and employment retention, even in this economy. But then I think he believes it. I mean, on my 4th anniversary with the Secret Base, he sent this really lovely note to me at home. It was just addressed to a different person. Didn't mention Bev and the kids, though. Weird. If you really want to know, it's not being punished for failure that's the hard part of this job. It's the failure. I mean, sure, the schemes, they're evil. And I personally don't want to shoot down a satellite or start a world war, but you know, you get invested in the effort. You get caught up in the enthusiasm. I mean, if you look at it, you know, whatever it is, crossing a goal line, replacing the president with an android, these are all arbitrary goals. And you want to be on the winning side. You know, that's why when the intruders finally come, we're all so excited. We're all thinking that this time it's going to work. It's too late. They can't stop us now. The rocket's already been launched. The intruder's already being lowered into the incinerator. What can they do? This time we're going to win. We are going to win this one. It's amazing, the human capacity for self-delusion. Or at least mine. When everything blows up, and we fired magazine after magazine into thin air where the intruders used to be, and the rocket ship has exploded, makes a beautiful background, and the intruder is groping his girlfriend, and then the roof collapses. Well, generally I just go home. It's easy in all the chaos, and after all this practice, we know where the exits are. Then Bev sees me, and I don't have to say anything. She knows. And I'll tell her, I will, but not today. The kids come up and they say, Daddy, Daddy, what did you do today? And I tell them the usual lies about working in IT. And I can see them lose interest bit by bit in that boring old dad. And I wish I could tell them, but I'm too embarrassed. I mean, at least in my fictional career in IT, I occasionally win one. The day after the catastrophe, we go back to the base. Sometimes it's still smoking. Once, after a particularly bad one, I think the intruder reprogrammed the doctor's escape pod. He went into orbit. It took him a month to get back. We decided to try to organize ourselves. Maybe we didn't need an evil genius barking orders at us, threatening us with death for the simplest error. Maybe we could be our own supervillains. Turns out we can't. Oh, we tried for a couple of days to put out the fires, get the computers up and running again, but eventually we just fell back into our old routines, guarding the corridors and gates, checking in the empty hostage cages, and eventually they came and got us and brought us to the new secret base. Recently, the dream, it's changed. I'm not in the corridor. I'm in a small, tight space. It's closed in, but I can move. And I'm crawling toward a light. There in front of me on the floor is a grill. Through it I can see two men wearing jumpsuits carrying machine guns. They don't mean me well. But I'm not scared. No, I feel really good about what's going to happen. I'm not thinking about the lies I have to tell my children about what I do to keep them happy and warm and safe. I feel great. I feel confident. I feel really good. I feel really good about what's going to happen next. And that's how I know I'm dreaming. Thank you.